Some of you are aware that Nikki and I went to Orlando this past week to teach spiritual education and enrichment classes. Nikki taught 3. She taught healing and wholeness, foundations of unity, and self-awareness. Sounds spiritual, right? Okay. I taught 2. I've taught history of New Thought and church finance. Most people in the unity movement don't consider that church finance is a very spiritual topic, but it is. There's a lot in church finance that's about consciousness, a consciousness of wealth, abundance, and appreciation. One of my students in church finance is on staff at Unity of Fairfax. And the minister at Unity of Fairfax is the former minister here, Reverend Russell Highland. So Reverend Russell tells this student, let's play Stump the Teacher. Thank you so much. He's my friend. But here's the question that the student came in with. What is spiritual depreciation and why is it important to church finance? So what is spiritual depreciation and why is that important to church finance? So to give you the background so that we're all on the same page, depreciation is an accounting term. It's what happens when you have an asset and that asset has a value, but it loses value over time. Like if you had a building, the day you bought that building or the day that that building was finished being built, it has a certain value. But over time, it ages, and over time, people use it. So after 10 years, it's not worth the same as it was the day you bought it or the day that you moved into it. Spiritual depreciation is pretty much the same thing. Spiritual depreciation pertains to the value of a spiritual experience. When we pray, we have a spiritual experience of recognizing and remembering our oneness with God in all of life. When we meditate, we have a spiritual experience of being in a higher vibration of love, joy, and peace. When we have a healing, we have a spiritual experience that enlivens our emotional psyche or our physical body or the relationships that we're in. When we don't continually renew our spiritual experience that we had last week or last month or last year, over time that spiritual experience will fade. The discoveries, the vibrant discoveries that we made in that spiritual experience are going to lose their luster. The neural pathways are going to lose their strength. Over time, we're going to begin to forget. It'll be harder and harder for us to keep our ideals, those things that we value most, in the forefront of our consciousness unless we engage in spiritual appreciation, that continually renewing, that always looking for that new spiritual experience to have again and again and again. So it's just like, if you have that building and you renovate or you remodel or if you do maintenance and repairs, that keeps up the value. So I got him. I got him, and what a great thing to come into a Sunday lesson, the whole idea of spiritual appreciation. 2 weeks ago at our annual meeting, the membership adopted 5 core values for how we are as a community. It was the next step in our move toward becoming a mission-centric spiritual community. Not a minister-centric, but a mission-centric. We are here for a common purpose. The first step was to identify and articulate what our mission is, like what our vision is for the world. And this is what we came up with. United in love, the world celebrates joy, abundance, and harmony. Can you imagine? Can you imagine an entire world, all the people, all the creatures, the entire planet celebrating joy, abundance, and harmony. That means that we're all experiencing it. We're all aware of it. Can you imagine what that would be like? It's a shift in collective consciousness. And it begins right here at Unity of Wilmington. You know, someday they could write a book. 150 people living in the greater Wilmington area have come together, and it's because they were willing to see the world celebrating joy, abundance, and harmony that we are having this experience today. Let's say this together. United in love, the world celebrates joy, abundance, and harmony. Woo! The next step, or the second step, which was really concurrent with the first step, was to articulate a mission, to articulate why we are here, what our purpose is for existing. A purpose that was so solid and so grounded that we could remember it all the time, that it was just all our decisions would go back to it. Here's what we came up with the mission. Unity of Wilmington is a vibrant, loving, spiritual community, expanding consciousness and inspiring transformation. We are here. We exist to expand consciousness. We are here. We exist to inspire personal transformation. This is who we are. This is what we do. And this is pretty darn cool. So let's say this together. Unity of Wilmington is a vibrant, loving, spiritual community, expanding consciousness and inspiring personal transformation. It's lofty, it's visionary, it's inspiring in and of itself. But it comes back to this is what and who we are. This is what we do. It's our raison d'etre. It's why we exist as a spiritual community. And I feel happy about that. Core values are more of a personal and cultural set of moral ethics that live within us. They're what's true for us to the very fiber of our being. We use our core values to give us direction. Thoreau says, go confidently in the direction of your dreams, and the vision, the mission, and the core values give us that direction to grow in. They give us the direction that we can deepen our spiritual experience into. In his book, The Light of the Heart, Roy T. Bennett, who's a contemporary author, says your values create your internal compass that you can navigate how you make decisions in your life. If you compromise your core values, you go nowhere. So how we are as a spiritual community comes out in 5 core values at Unity of Wilmington. Spiritual, uplifting, dynamic, loving, inclusive community. We're going to be talking about for the next 5 weeks, starting with today. Spiritual. When someone says they're a spiritual person, what do they mean? I think, first off, a caricature comes to mind. Bless you. Bless you. That's a spiritual person. Bless you. You got to get the hand up. So try it on somebody next to you. Bless you. Now try it on somebody else. Bless you. Sometimes another caricature comes to mind, and that's more of the holy person. The persona and the posture of a holy person. First you get the posture, and then you get the So put on the posture. Some of you are not playing. Put on the posture. You kind of have to wait a few beats, like do the head nod. We'll just get that little image. So spiritual people, you know, it's a wonder what being spiritual means, because we could have the posture and we could have the and we could say bless you and really mean it. We can be that kind of spiritual person. So If you go to church each Sunday and pray every day, does that mean you're a spiritual person?
No.
Not necessarily. Let's say you engage in yoga and meditate every day. Does that mean you're a spiritual person? Not necessarily. Let's say you even belong to a spiritual community and you read a lot of spiritual books. Does that mean you're a spiritual person? Not necessarily. It could mean yes, but sometimes it doesn't. I think that the definition that we have the greatest synchronicity, there's another S word that I'm looking for, anyway, synonymous, that we're most synonymous with, is one where somebody is loving and kind, not only to themselves but to others. Someone who is compassionate, who serves others without even thinking of the reason why. That's just who they are. That's just what they do. You don't have to attend a spiritual community every week. You don't have to pray. You don't have to go to yoga class. You don't have to meditate. You don't have to belong. You don't have to read spiritual books in order to be a spiritual person. I know lots and lots of spiritual people who you can just tell they're spiritual when you look in their eyes and you see kindness. You see genuine, actual, authentic compassion. You just know you're with a spiritual person. And then there are some religious people who are not kind, who are judgmental, who are unscrupulous, and it probably just takes a nanosecond or two for us to think of some of those people, but we don't want to go there. We really don't want to go there. Where we want to do is come home to ourselves, come home to that recognition that our spiritual way of being is embedded in the very fiber of our mind and our heart and our bodies. There's a segue. I'll be right back. Okay, it's not on that page. Okay, let's see what some contemporary people say about religion and spirituality. This is Lauryn Hill. She's a neo-soul musician. She says, I don't want to be religious, I want to be spiritual. Anybody can be religious. Some people jog religiously. If you want to be that, you want to be spiritual. You don't want to be that, you want to be spiritual. You want to have a relationship with God as opposed to doing what everyone else does. And then Brian Molko, who's a alternative punk rock, something experimental rock musician, says, I am not religious, but I'm definitely a very spiritual person. I've always said that religion is for people who are scared of ending up in hell. Spirituality is for those who've already been there. I think we can be both spiritual and religious. I think there's some excellent, amazing role models in our world, living and most recently living. I think about Mother Teresa. I think about the Dalai Lama. Yes, their religion is kindness, but they have a both and experience of being spiritual people. Deepak Chopra says religion is belief in someone else's experience. Spirituality is having your own experience. It's not that anyone is right or wrong or good and bad. I think having the observation of someone else's spiritual experience is a good thing. I think the observation, we learn a lot by reading, by looking, by watching. Children learn by what you do. When you touch the stove and you burn your hand, that kid learns pretty quick. It's probably not good to touch the stove. So we collect these experiences in our intellect. We put them in our consciousness. We absorb them. We collect them. We merge them in. And when those things in our intellect, in our consciousness, have a resonance with what's in our heart, I think that's when we have the best of both worlds. I think it's absolutely the best of both worlds to have both religion and spirituality. Here's what it looks like at Unity of Wilmington. Our core value is spiritual. We respect and celebrate the inner source of all. To me, that says oneness. That says oneness with each other, oneness with all of life. Our rationale is we express and expand awareness of the inherent good in ourselves and in others. I love that. That means we see each other. We see that Christ light. We see that amazing divinity in each and every person. And then here are some actions our ministry is willing to take. We provide opportunities to deepen spiritual practices. We continually deepen and expand our understanding of unity principles and seek to consistently align with them. And we provide opportunities for prayer and meditation. So I want to loop back to spiritual depreciation. Unless we are renewing and revitalizing our spiritual experiences every week, every month, every year, those in the past will begin to fade away. The discoveries, the vibrancy of the discoveries we make by having a spiritual experience is going to lose its luster. It'll be more and more difficult to keep in the forefront of our mind our ideals because our neural pathways will no longer be strengthened. So eventually we're going to forget. We're going to get spiritual amnesia unless we engage in spiritual appreciation, that continual commitment to renew our hearts and our minds. Whether it be prayer, whether it be meditation, if we are renewing those activities because we want to enliven our hearts, enliven our experiences, enliven the healings that go on in our emotional psyche, the healings that go on in our bodies, the healings that go on between us. In the Gospel of Thomas, Jesus said, the kingdom of heaven is between us. It's between us. Spiritual appreciation is how we live. Isn't that a beautiful offering that Unity of Wilmington is giving to us? We are here at the intersection between our oneness with God and having a spiritual experience. We are the place in this intersection where God shows up. You are the place. I am the place. We are the place where God shows up every day through spiritual appreciation. Let's take these thoughts, these ideas, these revelations, these remembrances of what we already knew to be true into a time of meditation. We're going to be singing, Lead Me to the Light. And then Reverend Nikki will take it.